Okay, good afternoon, everybody. So we start with the Vedanta series with today's talk, and it will go on for a few more sessions. And this follows the introduction to Indian philosophy, which I talked about the last time. So very briefly, what is Vedanta? So as the word implies, Vedanta is the end of the Vedas. Ved ka ant, Vedant. So if you remember the introduction to philosophy, each of the four Vedas had four sections, and the last section was the Upanishads. The Upanishads is condenses the philosophy in the Vedas, and that is also known as Vedanta. So this Vedanta is considered the absolute flower of Indian thought and Indian philosophy, its juice and nectar. And in today's session, we will do an introduction to Vedanta and its antecedents, how it developed. And from the next session, we will go into more detail. So what is, this whole background to philosophy? Uh, just to recap, as human beings, we are programmed to seek an explanation to the order and chaos in the world. So, we wake up in the morning and we see the sunrise. In the evening, the moon shines. And we wonder how it is so clockwork, how the seasons change in such a clockwork manner. And we also see the chaos. There are natural calamities, uh, and even in terms of human behavior, there is chaos. And we seek an explanation. We ask, why is there such great order and chaos in the world? If you ask a scientist, he or she will tell you that if the Earth was 5 kilometers closer to the sun or 5 kilometers away from the sun, it won't be stable. If you're 5 kilometers closer to the sun, it would be sucked into the sun. If it was 5 kilometers away from the sun, it would spin endlessly in orbit in space. So it is so perfect. The order is so perfect, so harmonious. So we ask, why is this so? We also experience bewildering multiplicity. You go to a garden, there are so many types of flowers. You look up, there are so many types of birds. You look at human beings, there's so many different types, color and height, and male, female. So there's so much multiplicity in the world. And philosophy, therefore, asks, what unites this multiplicity? If multiplicity is the only thing, then there will be chaos. There has to be some unity. If everybody, for example, in India said, I am a Punjabi, I am a Kannadiga, I am a Bihari, then there'll be chaos. What unites us is we are all Bharatiya. So philosophy asks the question that, this whole multiplicity in the world, what is the uniting factor? And Vedanta, as I said, is the flower of Indian philosophy. It's the ultimate nectar. It's the juice of Indian philosophy. So with this short introduction, let's go into the Vedanta. Now, there is a famous analogy of the snake and the rope, which all philosophers, Indian philosophers, use. So the story goes like this. You are walking on a street in the dark and you see a snake and you freeze with fear and you act, that it's a snake. And then the day breaks and you realize that it's a rope. So was the snake real? So Vedanta answers this question. So this is the crux of Vedanta. Was the snake which you perceived a rope to be, is it real or is it not real? Is the rope real? Is the snake real? Are both real? Is one more real than the other? So this is the entire inquiry of Vedanta philosophy. If we understand this analogy, you have understood Vedanta. So what are the pillars of Vedanta? There are two pillars of Vedanta. One pillar is, I'm giving you the the conclusion of Vedanta, and then we'll go into how they come to this conclusion. So one pillar of Vedanta is the world as you see it is an appearance. The word Vedanta uses is mithya, false. The world as you see it is an appearance. It exists, but it is not real. What is the reality though? The reality is underlying this world of multiplicity is pure consciousness. So when you're listening to me and you're absorbing it, it is because the pure consciousness is throwing light on your mind so that you can understand what I'm saying. And that is our reality. So this is the pillar of Vedanta. And where is that reality? It lurks right there. You don't have to go anywhere. It's not in some other place. It's not in America. It's not in the North Pole, South Pole. It's not in any other realm. It is right here. How is that? So there's a rope, and you think the rope is a snake. And the moment the knowledge dawns that it's not a snake, you can see the rope. So the moment the knowledge dawns, this world is not real, you can see the underlying pure consciousness. So it is right there. You don't have to go anywhere. It lurks right here. It is here and now. They say nirvan, moksha hota hai. It's here and now, right at this moment. So these are the pillars of Vedanta. And what does Vedanta basically inquire into? So what all philosophers, Western and Indian philosophers, they all say is the world, which is connoted in the Sanskrit term prakriti, which is nature. It matter. The matter is impermanent. So this entire world you see is impermanent. We are born, we die, everything is born, it sustains and it dies. So the whole world is impermanent. It's also changing every moment. So every moment, atoms in your body are changing, cells in your body are changing. So every moment there is change and everything is impermanent. So then the question arises, if everything in the world is impermanent, is there a permanent? And we all agree by convention to call that permanent God. If there is a permanent, we call it God. In Sanskrit, in Vedanta, we call it Brahman. All right. Similarly, this is as far as the external world is concerned, Prakriti is concerned. If you look at your inner world, if you close your eyes and see what are you thinking, what are you feeling, we find that even that is fleeting, even that is impermanent, it's changing. Thoughts are changing very fast. Your feelings are shifting, right? So if everything is fleeting, is there a permanent watcher within us? Something that watches our thoughts, something that watches our feelings. Is there something like that? Is there an permanent inner consciousness? And that is connoted in Vedanta by the term Atman, Atma. Now, what is the relationship between Brahman, Atman, and Prakriti is what Vedanta examines. So, where does Vedanta come from? So So it's there are three texts. Prasthanatraya. Prasthana is the text. Traya is three. There are three sacred texts from which Vedanta is derived. One, as I said, is the Upanishads. Then Bhagavad Gita, which is Upanishads summarized, and a text called Brahma Sutra. The Brahma Sutra took the philosophy out of the Upanishads and wrote it in a very logical manner, wrote it in a more reasoned manner. While the Upanishads were more poetic, Brahma Sutra is more, step by step and logical. Now, who's the author of Brahma Sutra? Krishna Dvaipayan Badaranyas. He is also known as Vedvyasa. You must have heard of Vedvyasa. He is the one who wrote the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita. He also put the Vedas, which were unwritten, into writing. So he's a very, revered and renowned rishi. That he is the one who wrote the Brahma Sutra. Now, the Brahma Sutra texts are very, very terse. It's not easy to understand, and they're very cryptic. So they need learned interpretation by rishis. And so there are many people who wrote commentaries on Brahma Sutra. Brahma Sutra, by the way, is also known as Vedanta Sutra. But the commentaries of Shankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Vallabhacharya, Nimbarakacharya, Bhaskaracharya, Neelakantacharya, and Chaitanyacharya are the most well known. In this series, as we go along, we will cover Shankara, Ramanuja, and Madhva. And we will, in the next slide, I'll get into what each of them very, very briefly had to say about. So before that, what was the main thesis of Badaranyas or Vedavyasa? First, he said that Vedas are eternal and authoritative. Why did he say that? Because, there was a time in our philosophical history where the Jainas and the Bauddhas said, we don't acknowledge the authority of the Vedas. So Badaranya makes the point that Vedas are eternal. That means they are not written by a human being. The knowledge flows into a human being at a certain level of purity and meditation. So they are eternal and they are authoritative. And Vedas are not prescriptive. It doesn't say do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. It doesn't say all that. So it's purely knowledge of the universe, right? So they are eternal and they are authoritative. And they are the only guide to reality, is what Badaranyas said. Because unless people have gone through that, reach that level where they can download universal knowledge within them, they will not know what reality is. So for people who have not, the discussion on reality you can only get from the Vedas. Number one. Number two, he said there are two realms of existence. Prakriti, which is governed by thought. So Prakriti is the world. In the world, there are multiplicity, people, there are relationships, and therefore it is governed by logic. You can use logic to understand the world. You can use reason to understand the world. You can use reason to understand why there's a flood. Why does the sun rise in the west and set in the east? You can use reason to understand all that. So whole Prakriti is governed by thought. While Brahman, which is pure consciousness, is beyond thought. So to understand Brahman, you have to cross the boundary of logic. So Vivekananda famously said that the truth lies beyond logic, but at the same time, it should not go against logic. So it lies beyond logic, but when you explain it to people, it should conform to logic. You should be able to logically explain it. So that is why this whole focus in Vedanta Upanishad is that you ask questions. You need to understand, you need to get it that this is the truth. It's not that take it because Vedas are saying it. This is a very important point. The third thing which Badaranyas wrote is that the Brahman, which is itself without source, it was never born, it never dies, it's always there, unchanging, it never changes. It's got nothing in it to change, it has no wants, it doesn't do anything. So it is itself sourceless, but at the same time, it is the source of everything. Now, what does that source of everything mean? We will see. So different commentators, different schools have different interpretations of that. The next thing he said that Brahman and Prakriti, that means God and the world, or pure consciousness and nature, are not different. And they likened it to the example of clay and pot. So you have clay and you do something to the clay and it becomes a pot. So is pot the clay? So according to Vedanta, it's just another form, another name and form of clay. It's not different from clay. The other example is gold and ornaments. So do you say that a necklace is different from a earring, is different from a nose ring, is different from a anklet, is different from a bracelet? You know, so all these bracelet, anklet, nose ring, earring are different kinds of ornaments. So are they really different or are they the same? So yes, in name and form, they are different. Name and form, nama rupa. In name and form, they're different. But if you really go, if you kind of sublate the ornament into its true reality, then the true reality is gold. So all the ornaments are ultimately gold. So in this way, Brahman is the gold, and everything you see, man, woman, tree, dog, animals, they're all names and forms of, but they all can be sublated to Brahman. So this was the main thesis of Vedvyasa of Vedanta. But why is there all this different names and forms? Is because, sorry, what is it? Hello?
With a whole stand.
Anybody is talking? Somebody is talking. Can you mute yourself, please? Yeah. And then why is there all this creation then? Because the Brahman has a power of creation, and he likens it to how heat is the power of fire. So just like heat exists in fire, creation exists in Brahman. So this is the very, in summary, the main thesis of Badaranyas, and other future commentators have gone into details of this, and they have their own reading of this, and they vary from each other. Okay. So there's some disturbance over here. Somebody should mute themselves, please.
I think I'm not muted.
Please mute. Please mute. Please mute. This is very disturbing. Okay. So there are 4 main interpretations of Vedanta. So one theory is called Ekatvam, or in English is called monism. Monism is there is only one. And that holds that Brahman only Brahman exists. It holds it. It's a very revolutionary. It goes to the extent of saying the world does not exist. Only Brahman exists. The world does not. What you're seeing is actually non-existent. You see other people around you, it's all non-existent. It's empty. So everything is non-existent, only Brahman exists. And Gaudapada, who was the Mahaguru, that means his Shankaracharya's guru's guru. Shankaracharya's guru was Govindapada, and Govindapada's guru was Gaudapada. And the ancient sage Vashishta, they are the main proponents of Ekatvam. The second way of looking at this is Advait, or non-dualism. This holds that Brahman is the ultimate reality, but the world exists. The Ekatvam said world does not exist. What you're seeing is actually an illusion, it doesn't exist. This Shankara said the world exists, but it is not real, it's Maya. So there's Brahman and Maya. And Brahman and Maya are non-dual, they're not two things. They're the same thing. It's like a necklace is not different from gold. So Maya is not different from Brahman. Okay? So it is, or the pot is not different from clay. Maya is not different from Brahman, is what they said. But they exist. It's not that it doesn't exist. It exists, the world exists, but it's not real. And Shankaracharya was the main proponent of this. Then you have Vishisht Advait, or what is called qualified non-dualism. And the proponent of this is Ramanujacharya. I'm hearing a doorbell somewhere. The main proponent is Ramanujacharya, who lived in Sri Rangam in Tamil Nadu. And he holds that the world is one organic whole. So this Brahman is an organic whole, but Brahman is qualified by attributes. This whole has, attributes, it has qualities. So the Prakriti and individual Atmans, individual souls called Jivas, are attributes of Brahman. So Brahman is the whole, and within that whole, there are differences, and those differences are the qualities of Brahman. Okay? So it is like gold is the whole, but the color yellow, the shine, the weight, these are properties, these are attributes of gold. So similarly, Brahman is the whole, but the world and souls are attributes of Brahman. And the main proponent was Ramanuja. And fourth, you have Dvaita, or dualism, which holds that Brahman, world, and souls are different realities. But it says only independent reality is Brahman, and all the others are dependent on it. And the main proponent of this was Madhava. So from this, you can see that everybody who is interpreting Vedanta is saying Brahman is the ultimate reality. Now, after that, they have given some interpretations ranging from the world does not exist, or to world is real, to the world is an attribute, to no, even world and souls are real, but they're all dependent, but they're dependent on Brahman. So if you think about it, they all have same kind of a theory, but with slight variations. Okay. So as in the series, we'll cover Advaitha of Shankara, we'll cover Vishisht Advaita of Ramanuja, and we'll cover Dvaita of Madhva. Just a word on Shankara, you all know. So Ramanuja is also he propagated the Vaishnava faith, and Madhva also propagated the Vaishnava faith, while Advaita was totally Gyan Marga. So in today's series, I will just cover Ekatva, and from the next series I'll start with Shankara. So Gaudapada, he analyzes the Mandukya Upanishad. So there are actually 108 Upanishads, but Shankara said if you read 10 Upanishads, that should do. And one of those 10 Upanishads is the Mandukya Upanishad. Mandukya Upanishad is the shortest Upanishad. It's got only 12 shloks, and but it's got a huge commentary. So it says, it examines consciousness. And it says that the consciousness operates in three states of consciousness. One is when we are awake. It is called Vaishvanara. One is when we are sleeping and we are dreaming. It's called Taijasa. And one is when you are in deep sleep, where in the phase of sleep where there are no dreams also. It's called Prajna. And there's a fourth stage which transcends these three stages, which is a state of pure, you are in the state of pure consciousness, which is a state which you get in samadhi, in meditation, very high, at high level of meditation, you get this state called Turiya. All right. So there's Vaishnavara, which is a waking state, Taijasa, which is a dream state, Prajna, which is a deep sleep state, and Turiya, which is the transcendental state. So in the waking state, what happens? The waker extends outwards towards his sense organs, his sight and hearing, and his faculty of smell and taste and touch. They extend outwards towards the world, towards all the sense objects. It smells the flowers, tastes the food, so it is all outwards. It's a whole outward experience, right? In the dream state, what happens is the sense organs withdraw. When you go to sleep in the dream state, your sense organs are not working. Your sight, your hearing, your smell, your touch, these are not working. They're withdrawn, right? And what is happening is that whatever experience you have in the waking state is stored as impressions in some part of the mind, and another part of the mind is experiencing those impressions, which is what a dream is, right? And in prajna, that is in the deep sleep state, both the sense organs and the mind are both withdrawn. So there is no knowledge, because the sense is not there, the mind is not there, and no objects are there also. So to have knowledge, you need three things. You need an object. You need, if you need a flower, it's an object. Then you need senses. Your eye sees the flowers, your nose smells the flower. You need senses, and the mind processes the sense information. So the eye sends the information to the mind, and the nose sends the information to the mind, and the mind will process it and say, it's a beautiful rose with a nice smell. So you need an object, you need senses, and you need mind to have knowledge. But in deep sleep state, there is no object, there's no senses, no mind, right? But a very interesting thing happens is when you wake up, there is a memory of having slept well. You wake up in the morning, you say, I had a lovely sleep last night. How is that? How is that? So then they came to the conclusion that consciousness is still awake. Your Atman is still awake. And your Atman directly was present, and when you woke up, told you that you slept well. So from this, they concluded that in the world of change, there is waking state, dream state, deep sleep state, but consciousness remains constant across these states. The Atman, the consciousness in the Atman remains constant. It just observes these three states without getting involved. It is a constant factor. And Turiya is when you're totally absorbed in that constant Atman state. So that's the fourth stage. We have transcended the worldly phases, and you are in completely absorbed in consciousness. That is called Turiya. So the Gaudapada answered this question. He came up with a very good commentary. Is a dream real or unreal? So, like there was a story of a king who went to a rishi and said, I dreamt that, my enemies were killing me in my dream. But when I wake up, I'm the king and I'm in no danger. So he asked, Ye sach ki wo sach. Is this true or is that true? So now it's a very philosophical question. So Gaudapada, he argues that the dream is as real or as unreal as the waking state. There's no difference between the dream state and the waking state. It is only because of convention that we say the dream is unreal and waking state is real. It's convention, but it doesn't have, it is philosophically, logically not true. Then he says that a dream water, if you are thirsty in a dream, the water in the dream will quench your dream thirst. It will quench your dream thirst as satisfyingly as waking water will quench your waking thirst. So he says there is no difference. And he says, based on this analysis, he says that when Brahman is known, the waking world disappears. So the dream world disappears only because you wake up. And that doesn't make it unreal. So more unreal than the waking world. When Brahman is realized, even the waking world disappears. So he gives it the same status. In deep sleep state, the mind and senses fold up as we discussed. But there's a remembrance of having slept well, which indicates the presence of consciousness in that state. So Gaudapada concludes that the common factor across three states is Atman, the unchanging consciousness. And in moksha, in samadhi, in spiritual absorption, when you're absorbed in Atman, then only Atman remains. And therefore, the many philosophers, many mystics, not philosophers, many mystics, they say that the purpose of dream, that why do we dream? I mean, God could have created us for and not to dream. But they say one of the purposes of dream is to help you to think and point you to the nature of reality. You know, because you dream and you ask, is the dream real or waking world real? This question leads you to the answer as we discover in Mandukya Upanishad, which Gaudapada has analyzed the best. I mean, his Karika, his commentary on Mandukya Upanishad is considered a masterpiece. We go to another subject, it's called the theories of creation. So basically, there are two theories of creation. One is called Satkaryavada. Satkaryavada holds that effect. So when a baby is born is an effect. And it has a cause. Okay? The cause of the baby are the parents, are the mother and father. They did something and the baby gestated and was born. So it's an effect. So it holds that the effect pre-exists in the cause. We looked at the example of the pot and mud and gold and necklace. So basically, Satkaryavada says that the pot pre-exists in the mud. Somebody has done something to the mud to make it into a pot, but the pot existed in the mud. Another way of looking at it is that you can't take cotton wool and make pot. Pot doesn't pre-exist in the cotton wool. Or you can't make a cloth out of mud because the cloth doesn't pre-exist in the mud. Pot pre-exists in the mud. Or necklace in gold. You can't make a fish out of gold. Fish means a real life fish, not a goldfish. Okay, so Satkaryavada holds that the effect pre-exists in the cause. Asatkaryavada holds that the effect does not exist in the cause. It says the cause transforms itself completely into the effect. It ceases to exist. And the example they give is that of a seed and a tree, where they say the seed is completely destroyed. It doesn't exist anymore to produce a tree. So it's a complete transformation of the seed to a tree. So this is Asat Karyavada. Now, if you get subtler, then Sat Karyavada again has got two types. One is Parinam Vada, which is very close to Asat Karyavada, but has a slight difference. It holds that effect pre-exists in the cause, but is completely transformed. Which means if you take the seed and the tree example, the tree pre-exists in the seed. In Asat Karyavada, the tree does not pre-exist in the seed. Seed completely transforms into the tree. But in Parinam Vada, the tree pre-exists in the seed, but the seed is completely destroyed to become the effect, become the tree. And Vivartavada holds that there is no creation, only the name and form changes. So there is no change to gold only. Gold has now become necklace, has become earring, has become a bracelet, has become an anklet, but it remains gold. Only the Nama Rupa has changed. So the mud has become pot, it has become a saucer, it has become a cup, it has become a sculpture. Only Nama Rupa has changed. Mud remains the same. Cotton has become cloth, has become thread. Only Nama Rupa has changed. Basically, there is no creation, is Vivartavada. So most of the Vedanta thinkers are Vivartavadis. What does Gaudapada say? So Gaudapada, because we complete Ekatvam in this talk, and from next talk we'll go on to Advaitha of Shankara. So he asked, are the ornaments real or gold real? So if you were to take a earring and say, what is the basis of the earring? So you go to a jeweler and he says, I had a necklace and I melted it and I made it into a earring. Oh, so the basis of the earring is the necklace. You will conclude that. So then the next logical question is, what is the basis of the necklace? So he says, oh, earlier it was a bracelet and I kind of melted the bracelet and made this necklace. So then again you'll conclude, oh, so the basis of the necklace is a bracelet. And then you'll go on and on and on till you come to gold. So gold is then the basis, and then we can't go beyond gold. So similarly, what is the basis of the human being? Oh, we were primates earlier. We were monkeys. From monkeys we evolved. So what's the basis of the monkey? Oh, the monkey was a fish. What's the basis of the fish? Oh, the fish was the amoeba. What's the basis of the amoeba? So by this way, if you go, you'll come to the reality of Brahman. Okay. So this is how we extend the example of gold and pot and necklace and mud to Brahman. So the unseen Brahman is the one on which the world appears. And there is really, it's not the cause. The world is unreal. There's no creation. Everything is, there is just no creation. It's just Brahman. So Gaudapada, that is why Gaudapada concludes that there is no creation and nothing is produced. There's no production, no destruction, no cause, no effect. Everything is illusion. There is no creation. And then he's asked them, but then how does the world appear? There is no creation, there's nothing out there, but it looks as if it is there. So he says, well, there is a nature, the Brahman has a nature which is called Maya, which they call Maya, and which makes a very dream-like world to appear. It's like you go to a desert and a dream-like oasis appears. It has no reality, it's empty, it doesn't exist. It's mithya. So the Vedantists call it mithya or false, and the Buddhists call it shunya or empty. Only Brahman exists. So this is the theory of Ekatvam. And from the next talk, we will go into Advaitha of Shankara.
Bhaiya, we can open the question answer session.
Yes, you can. I'm just closing my presentation so that I can come back on screen. You stop sharing.
Yeah, we can ask Ashok Bakshi Bhaiya and Meena Didi one by one to put up and engage with you.
Sure. I can't see the others. Where are the others?
No, both of them are on screen.
ठीक.
नमस्कार जी।
नमस्कार जी, बाकी
अशोक बख्शी।
हाँ।
ये बड़ा गूढ़ विषय है और इसको इतनी जल्दी समझा नहीं जा सकता। तो I've just started listening to you and ये जो आपने बताया ड्रीम में जो देखते हैं और जो रियलिटी में है में कोई फर्क नहीं, ये समझ में नहीं आया।
Okay, so very good question. This is a ये समझ में नहीं आया, इसमें आपकी कोई गलती नहीं है। बहुत लोगों को समझ में नहीं आई ये बात, और मुझे भी समझ नहीं आया, बहुत साल समझ में नहीं आई ये बात. So it's a very difficult thing. Basically, what they are saying is that, you know, you have answered the question in the way you have framed the question. You are saying that जब reality में dream नहीं, that is because you are considering the waking state real. So compared to that, the dream is unreal.
Yes.
Okay, so as a philosopher, the philosopher's question, is the waking state real itself? If the waking state itself is not real, one unreal is saying to some other unreal कि तुम unreal हो, हम real है. आप समझे ना? Okay, so that is the problem. So we say a dream is unreal because of convention, because of a convention. The convention is the waking world is real. All right. Now, if you go deeper, so he explains, there are 4-5 points which Gaudapada explains. I don't remember all of them, but the main ones is वो बोलते हैं कि उसमें तो भूख नहीं मिटता है ड्रीम में तो बोला नहीं, ऐसा तो नहीं है। अगर आपको ड्रीम में भूख लगा और आप ड्रीम में बिरयानी खा रहे हैं तो आपका पेट भर जाता है, ड्रीम पेट भर जाता है, तो कोई फर्क नहीं है। तो फिर वो बोलते हैं, दूसरा बोलते हैं कि अरे वेकिंग स्टेट में जो मैं देख रहा हूँ वही बख्शी साहब भी देख रहे हैं, और ड्रीम में तो ऐसा नहीं है। बोलते नहीं, ऐसा भी नहीं है, ड्रीम में भी बहुत लोग होते हैं आपके ड्रीम में, आप तो अकेले ड्रीम नहीं होते ना, ड्रीम में और लोग भी होते हैं, they are participating, just like you and I are participating in waking state. In the dream state also people are participating. So what the dream, if you really very penetrating insights of dream ko dekhenge, then you will question whether the waking state is also real or not real. And once you realize that you are the underlying consciousness, the Brahman consciousness, right? One thing you must realize, that this what we call God, the concept of God, Ishwar, जो भी है, जो भी नाम दें आप उनको, it is not somebody sitting somewhere outside the universe and judging you and sending you to heaven, hell, whatever.
Correct.
That is not the concept of God in Indian either religious or philosophical traditions. God lives in his creation. तो गॉड वही है, अभी जहां बैठे वही गॉड है. आप अगर आपको ये आ गया दिमाग में कि ये जो हम देख रहे हैं वर्ल्ड इज अनरियल, गॉड वही है, और आप ही गॉड है, आप और कोई गॉड नहीं, आप ही गॉड है, सब कोई गॉड है. वी आर गॉड. जो हम आप ये है वो मिथ्य है, दैट इज फॉल्स, दैट इज शून्य, दैट इज एम्प्टी. Names and forms. You are Bakshi, you have a name. I am Sinha, I have a name. We are just names and forms. But at the level of reality, the name and form is empty. आप अगले जन्म में आपका नाम सिन्हा हो सकता है, या जॉन हो सकता है, या रहीम हो सकता है, जो भी हो सकता है, ठीक है. So this is just name and form is empty, right? So in reality, there is only Brahman. And once you get that reality, which is right here now, then even waking state will be unreal.
तो waking state जो है, is it a bridge, kind of bridge?
No, it's not a bridge. It's just there are three states. Your consciousness moves through three states. One state is the waking state. Waking state, my only thing is everything is active. Your mind is active. Your senses are active.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Then the dream state is your senses withdraw. So your mind is active, but senses are not there.
लेकिन आपने बताया कि उसमें प्यास लगी, पानी पिया तो we feel.
Yeah, but that's mind. That's mind. Your senses, your waking smell, taste is not there. But your mind is working. Your inner faculty is working.
That is there.
You may taste food. You may, in a dream state, you will taste food, but with your mind, not with your senses.
Okay.
So senses are not there. The mind is there.
Okay.
Then in the deep sleep state, there is no mind also.
Okay.
But in all these states, the consciousness is there.
Okay.
And when you transcend these states in samadhi, in yoga, in a yogic trance, then you become just the pure consciousness. That means waking state bhi nahi hai, ye bhi nahi hai, wo bhi nahi hai, khali atma hai.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Ji.
Thank you.
Very good.
I have a question here regarding the same thing. I had read this story somewhere. Lekin, one minute. Ashok ji, can you carry on the discussion? There's somebody at the door and I'm alone. I have to go and open the door.
Unmute. So she's coming. मीना जी अभी आ रही हैं.
हाँ.
तो इसमें जो है कंट्रोल किसको करना चाहिए?
In what? Sorry, tell me your question. I didn't understand.
जैसे we go in meditation, we go in trance, then we basically control our mind, isn't it?
No. You don't control your mind.
Yeah.
The mind vanishes.
Okay.
Mind control, because meditation जो समाधि होता है इसमें mind और so your mind disappears.
Okay.
Only consciousness remains.
Consciousness. Okay.
So let me explain this to you. What happens? There is in yoga, there's an idea called dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So meditation is like 3 steps. I'm making it simple just now, but there is more steps. But let's make it simple. Dharana, dhyana, samadhi. So in normal state, like just now, the mind is chanchal. इधर उधर 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 जा रहा है.
बहुत खुरापात.
तो धारणा में हम क्या करते हैं कि हम माइंड को ट्रेन करते हैं कि एक चीज पर कंसंट्रेट करें.
ठीक है.
आंख बंद कर लिए और वो आपको जो इंस्ट्रक्टर है जो सिखा रहा है आपको मेडिटेशन, वो बोलेगा जस्ट फोकस ऑन योर ब्रेथ गोइंग इन एंड कमिंग आउट, और जस्ट चांट ओम इन योर माइंड.
Okay.
And just focus on the om. So dharana is you train the mind to shut out all other thoughts.
Okay.
Only concentrate on one thought.
Okay.
Now, if you do this and keep practicing it, then automatically you can't do it yourself. It will happen automatically.
Oh yes.
There'll be a shift to what is called dhyana.
Okay.
So dhyana में क्या होता है कि आपका you will figure out that आपका जो consciousness है वो जा रहा था एक object की तरफ, ओम की तरफ या breathing की तरफ. आप सोचेंगे वो breathing हट गया, वो ओम हट गया, लेकिन आप देख रहे हैं कि वो consciousness जा रहा है, वो जो धारा है वो जा रही है. That's the second stage. It's called dhyana. तो आपका mind है और वो धारा consciousness धारा है.
Correct.
और उसको भी करते रहेंगे तो एक टाइम आएगा जब आपका माइंड भी ड्रॉप कर जाएगा और सिर्फ धारा रहेगा.
It's kind of blank.
You can say that it's kind of blank. It's kind of blank. You can
Okay.
say that, but you know, so there's a whole theory about, is it blank, is it something, whatever it is, that what you can say. But anyway, what people are agreed to is very difficult to describe. What that state is.
Okay. May I say a little bit
Yes,
about
yes,
the experience? I was put up by somebody in a Buddhist monastery in US, and because when I went first time to US, I had no place to live, so I was provided a place to live. So वहाँ पे they were doing vipassana.
Correct.
But to the American, to tell that vipassana, it was little difficult to explain. So they were doing it as anti-stress program. तो उसमें जो है वो they would cut off everything, no telephone, no letter, no TV, no news from outside. जो आप बता रहे हैं, basically to cut off from outside, to narrow down to your meditation, which they would do early morning 4 बजे बैठ के करते थे. और मुझे लगा कि पता नहीं कहीं ये ऐसे ही गिमिक है, पैसा बनाने का क्या है, तो मैं भी कोशिश किया उनके साथ बैठने का, लेकिन मैं कर नहीं पाया. और आई फेल्ट 2-3 दिन बाद मेरे को आई कुड फील वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग एनर्जीज, क्योंकि जो पीपल वर कमिंग कहाँ से आ रहे थे, दे वर वेरी हाइपर टाइप ऑफ पीपल. तो वो जब आई कुड फील देयर एनर्जीज गोइंग अराउंड, मैं तो कर नहीं पाया. फिर हमने उन लोगों से अलग बैठ के कहीं और दूर कहीं खेतों में कमरे में जाके सुबह 4 बैठ के किया. 1 दिन 2 दिन 3 दिन नहीं कर पाया. धीरे धीरे जैसे आप बता रहे हैं, आई कुड रीच दैट स्टेज, और वहां जाके आई वाज ब्लैंक, और इट टुक मी अ व्हाइल टू कम बैक. बड़ा वक्त लगा मैं वापस आने में. मैं एक तरह से डर गया था, बट आई कुड सेंस कि देयर इज that stage, there is that way to reach or maybe beyond. मैंने तो खाली चेक करना था, तो उसके बाद मैंने किया नहीं. उनको ठीक बता रहे हैं, लेकिन वो स्टेज को मैं समझ नहीं पाया जैसे आप बता रहे हैं. जो ब्लैंक हो गया था, उसको क्या कहेंगे?
उसको बहुत लोग बहुत कुछ कहते हैं, पर अभी उसको छोड़िए. वो जो स्टेट है, उसको डिस्क्राइब करना बड़ा मुश्किल है. उसके लिए शब्द नहीं होगा.
करेक्ट. जैसे आपने बताया, माइंड पीछे रह जाता है.
माइंड पीछे रह गया, तो that experience is indescribable.
You are correct.
So that is why the Buddha,
जी,
गौतम बुद्ध जी, उनसे जब पूछा गया था कि उसमें निर्वाणा में क्या होता है,
हाँ जी,
चुप. और क्यों चुप थे? उनका, हमारे ट्रेडिशन में एक बौद्धा थे, नागार्जुना.
हाँ जी, नागार्जुना.
He was one of the most brilliant minds this land Bharat has produced.
अच्छा जी.
And he said कि बुद्धा की जो चुप्पी थी, other people have interpreted it as what you say, blank, nothing.
Okay.
He says this is not true. कुछ है, लेकिन क्या है उसको हम शब्द में नहीं बोल सकते.
अच्छा. Okay.
तो इसीलिए बुद्धा चुप थे. What cannot be said should not be said. But है, कुछ है. वो क्या है हमको नहीं मालूम.
Bhaiya, we have got only 5 minutes left, or less than that rather. We can take one question from Meena Didi.
If there are more questions, you can switch off the recording and continue if you want.
Yeah, that we can.
My question was about Gaudapada. I have read that story somewhere, but unfortunately I could not find it again, and I don't remember what explanation he gave, because in that story, when the king told him that this is the dream I had and this is it, and then when I woke up, तो ये सच है कि वो सच है? तो Gaudapada replied, he said ये भी सच वो भी सच.
हाँ. Correct.
लेकिन आफ्टर दैट ही राजा ने पूछा कि मुझे समझ में नहीं आया, तो ही एक्सप्लेन्ड. तो I don't remember that explanation. If you have that,
no,
I would
so
be.
I also don't remember the story sequence, but basically what exactly you're right. He said, अगर ये सच है तो वो भी सच है. और ये सच नहीं है तो वो भी सच नहीं है. That was the explanation.
Because he gave an explanation as
हाँ.
to why ये भी सच है.
वो तो मैंने बताया ना अभी, जो बख्शी साहब का जो सवाल मैंने आंसर किया तो उसमें मैंने बताया. मैंने बख्शी साहब का भी सवाल का जवाब दिया ना, तो उसमें मैंने पूरा एक्सप्लेन किया कि व्हाई द वेकिंग स्टेट एंड ड्रीम स्टेट में कोई फर्क नहीं है सच्चाई में. मैंने फर्क तो है, एक्सपीरियंस में फर्क है, नो डाउट. ड्रीम एक्सपीरियंस डिफरेंट फ्रॉम द एक्सपीरियंस ऑफ वेकिंग, बट इन ट्रूथ, इन द रियलिटी ऑफ इट, देयर इज नो डिफरेंस. If you consider waking state real, then that is also real. If you consider both unreal, then both are unreal.